Soloing on guitar can feel like running in circles. You're practicing endlessly, but never really getting better. And I've been there, stuck, frustrated, and just convinced I'd never break through, even though my regular guitar playing went from strength to strength. But then I realized something. Soloing isn't just about flashy techniques. It's about having the right mindset and smart practice habits. So in this video, I'll share the key mindset shifts and focus strategies that finally helped unlock my soloing potential, and they can do the same for you. I used to teach a ton of lessons to both adults and kids, and there's a big difference between the mindset of them typically. With adults, they tend to be very kind of closed-minded and afraid of mistakes. It wasn't all that uncommon that a beginner might come to me for the first lesson, never having even touched their guitar because they were afraid to make a mistake, and they wanted to make sure I tuned it up and showed them everything properly. Like they didn't even want to pick it up and play and strum it on their own, Whereas kids, they typically don't care at all. They're just having fun, and as a result, they would learn a lot faster, My youngest son right now, he's 2, so he's in the early stages of learning to speak, and he doesn't care about making mistakes. He's just talking. He's just having fun. And how is he learning to speak? The number one thing that he's been doing since day one, being born in the world, he's listening. So we got to make sure we have this beginner's mindset where we're open and eager, we're listening a lot, and we're not afraid of making mistakes. And for myself, after playing guitar for many years, I had to really force myself to have this mindset. When I started learning slide, it was like I'd never played slide, but I always wanted to. And I'll admit, I was a little afraid to just pick it up and start. And I finally did, got into it, and was like, oh. I was like, oh my goodness, it sounded awful. No matter how good you're on guitar, if you pick it up playing for the first time, it's hard. It's a whole different approach, and it's hard to just get it to be in pitch, So I had to be easy on myself and keep at it and just make little steps here and there. And, the key to really getting better at soloing is that your mind has got to be focused on exploration, not perfection. But what about your actual practice routine? You could be practicing 10 hours per day, all day, every day, but it's not going to be guaranteed to help your soloing. What most of us need is a more accountability in doing the right things to avoid wasting time on unproductive habits so you can expedite your growth. And even though you want to be exploring and making mistakes, sure, but you don't want to be practicing those mistakes in. You want to be kind of, figuring out what you want to do and what you don't want to do, and then focus more on the things you want to do while still exploring and sure making mistakes. And it's really critical to have like a consistent practice routine to improve your soloing rather than just kind of picking up the guitar and just noodling all the time. Again, exploring is great, but you don't want to be just exploring all the time. So what are some key components of having an effective practice routine? Well, focused repetition. It's like you don't want to just, practice meandering around the guitar all the time, but have, something where you're practicing some scales and really practicing with intention. You're not just mindlessly going through, but you're really, really aware of how every little note you play, how it sounds, and then having active listening, dedicate time to just listen to music, and not just while you're driving around or walking with earphones in, but just sitting down, just listening to music with no distraction. Even if it's just like 10 minutes a week, it can just expedite your growth so much. Put on some soloists you like, listen to a bunch of their solos and just how what they're doing and things that you like. And then you can then start transcribing that stuff too. That's going to develop your ear so much by slowing recordings down and transcribing them and figuring out the things that you like and making them a part of your own playing. Because in the end, learning the solo is just like learning a language, and it can be very hard on its own, and so is learning to play the guitar. It's like practicing, is how we get better at anything, but you want to get the most out of time you spend practicing. And that's why I created the 10-minute power practice workshop, so you can waste less time and improve at a much faster pace. So to learn more about it, just click on the link in the description. Now, another effective thing to have in your practice routine is to be recording yourself so that you can get feedback and you can hear things where you liked, like, oh, you were improvising something and you're like, oh, I like that. What was that? You know, in the moment, you maybe didn't even know. And you figure it out and then make it a part of your playing. And then things that you don't really like, oh, maybe you're playing too many notes. You're not leaving enough space. You know, the best way to get a feel for that is to record yourself and then to spend the time listening back, as painful as it can be to listen back to recordings. Like looking in the mirror, it can make us feel a little insecure sometimes, but you just got to do it. And just like playing, it just gets easier the more you do it. And in the end, you know, you still just want to play guitar just like a kid plays for fun and not for the end goal of learning something. And, you know, feeling like you're not good at soloing is something every guitarist runs into from time to time. It's frustrating, awkward, and it can feel like speaking a new language that you barely know. But the real breakthroughs don't come just from playing more scales or flashy licks. It's something much more simple than that. So check out this video here where I show you how one lesson I took completely changed how I improvise solos.